morning, second period. We are going to take some notes on solving absolute value equations. So we have two different scenarios that could happen. So the first one is we just have the absolute value is equal to some number, right? So these are the steps you're going to take. First, isolate the absolute value expression. That just means if there's anything outside the absolute value bars, you have to move it to the other side first. Then make sure that the constant, the c value right here, is greater than or equal to 0. That just means that c cannot be a negative number. Right, then we're going to separate it into two different equations and solve each of them, and then we're going to check for what's called extraneous solutions. Okay. So quick little refresher about absolute value. If we have the absolute value of -3, what that would be equal to is +3, because the absolute value makes everything positive. If I have the absolute value of 7, that would equal 7. Right? So anything positive will still be positive. If I have the absolute value of 0, that would equal 0, because 0 is it's neither positive nor negative, so 0 would just remain 0. But that's what absolute value does, it makes everything positive. Okay? So let's follow our steps. Isolate the absolute value. So on example 1, there's a 4 in front. We need to divide that first. We can't have anything outside the absolute value bars. So that gives us absolute value of x minus 2 equals 5. Now we're going to separate it. Since it does equal a positive number, this is good. We're going to separate it to two equations. So the first time, just rewrite it without the absolute value bars. The second time, we're going to rewrite it, but we're going to make the right-hand side negative. Technically, what we should do is make the left side negative, because it's this area that we don't know if it's started out positive or started out negative, because either way, once you take the absolute value, it turns positive. But a trick to make it a little bit easier is instead of making this entire left side negative, we just make the right side negative. It just makes it easier. So that's the way we're going to do all of them. Okay? Alright, now let's just focus on this first one. The x minus 2 equals 5. All I gotta do is add 2 to the opposite side, and you get 7. Take the same exact step to this equation, add 2, x equals -3. Okay, let's check to see that these are actually correct. So what we do is we take our value as x, or our x is 7, excuse me, so we're going to plug it in right here and see if it works. So I'm just going to do this kind of mentally. So 7 minus 2, well that's 5. The absolute value of 5 is still 5, because it's already positive. So then 4 times 5 would be 20. Well, that's what it equals, so that's good. I'm going to put a box around it. Let's try -3. Alright, -3 minus 2 is -5, so inside would be -5, but then the absolute value of -5 makes it positive, so now it's +5 times 4 is 20, so this one also works. So we have two answers. Alright, let's do number 1 together also. We're going to get the absolute value by itself, so I have to subtract the 5 to the opposite side because it's not inside the absolute value bars. Okay, so 3 minus 5, that would be a -2. My absolute value is equal to a negative. This is when you stop doing the problem, because absolute value makes everything positive. So maybe you're thinking, and you don't need to write this, but maybe you're thinking, hey, well, what if x is -1? Kind of makes sense. Let's say if x equals -1. Well, that would be 2 times -1. Let's see, 2 times -1 is -2, but then the absolute value of -2 makes it +2, not equal to -2. Alright, so that doesn't work. And there's no number that's going to work, because it doesn't matter what I put in for x, after I take the absolute value, it'll be positive, not a negative. Okay, so that means this one has no solution. Alright, for number 2, what I would like for you to do is pause this video and try this one on your own. And then when you're done, you can start the video up again and see if you got it right. So the first thing we're going to do is move this 8. So I would add the 8 to the opposite side. Okay, so you do have to get rid of any subtraction or addition before you can get rid of the multiplication of the 2 right here. Okay, so that'd be 2 absolute value of 3x plus 1 equals 20. And then we'll divide by 2. Absolute value of 3x plus 1 equals 10. Okay, so you get rid of everything outside the absolute value first, and then we separate it. So I'm going to rewrite it as 3x plus 1 equals 10, and then 3x plus 1 equals negative 10. So then we just look at this first equation. I would subtract 1, get 3x equals 9, and then divide. So x equals 3. Take the same exact steps to the other equation. Subtract 1 is negative 11, divide by 3. That gives me x equals negative 11 over 3. You can check these answers just by plugging in these numbers in place of x, but I'll tell you that they both work. Okay, so that was the first case. Our second case is basically the same, except on the right-hand side, you also have an x. You have a variable. All right, so we're still gonna isolate the absolute value expression. So anything outside, you gotta get rid of it first. Then we're gonna separate it, but look at this one. When we do the negative version of the equation, you have to put the whole right-hand side in parentheses. That way everything is negative and not just the first term. And then we're gonna solve it and check for extraneous solutions. And this part is super important this time because sometimes you will get extraneous solutions here. So you do have to actually check every single answer. Okay, so example 2, I see that 2 is outside, so I will divide it because it's in front. So absolute value of x minus 4 equals 3x. Let me rewrite it now. X minus 4 equals 3x, and then x minus 4 equals negative 3x. And then we solve. And normally, like my go-to is I would move this 4 to the other side, but there's no other constants. It's another variable. So actually, this time I'm going to move the x over. So I'm going to subtract x. So negative 4 equals, remember this is like a 1x, so 3 minus 1 is 2x. And then you divide by 2. So you get x equals negative 2 for one answer. Take the same steps over here, subtract the x. Negative 3 minus 1 would be negative 4x, and divide would be positive 1. But do those actually work? Let's see. So if x is negative 2, negative 2 minus 4 would be negative 6. The absolute value of negative 6 would turn it into a positive 6. So now I have 2 times positive 6. Well, that would be 12. On the right-hand side, I also have to fill in a negative 2. So 6 times negative 2 would be negative 12. So I have 12 equals negative 12. Well, that's not true. So x equals negative 2 does not work. It's an extraneous solution. It means we didn't do anything wrong, but when we check it, it just doesn't work. Okay, let's check 1. See if 1 is a correct answer. Okay, so if x is 1, 1 minus 4, it would be negative 3, but then you take the absolute value, making it a positive 3, times that by 2, and you get 6. On this side, 6 times 1 would be 6. So 6 equals 6. Yes, this one works. So this time we only have one answer. The answer is 1. Alright, let's do this one together also. So the 8 is outside the absolute value, so you got to move it over first. Absolute value of 2x minus 1 equals x plus 10. Okay, and then we're going to separate it. 2x minus 1 equals x plus 10. And then 2x minus 1 equals, then you have to do negative parentheses x plus 10. So on the problem right above it, I didn't have to use parentheses because there was only one term on the right side, so I just put negative 3x. But this one is different because it has x plus 10 on the right, so I have to put negative so that the whole thing will turn negative. Alright, I have x's on both sides, so let's get those together first. I usually move the smaller one, so this time I'm going to move this x to the left. So subtract the x, subtract the x. 2 minus 1 is 1x. And then just to save on space, I'm going to go ahead and add the 1 right here and add it to the right side. So x equals 11. On the right equation, I'm going to have to distribute the negative first before taking the same steps. So negative x minus 10. Okay, and then I can add the x to the left, so I get 3x. And then I'll add the 1 to the right side. So I'm just basically moving variables to the left and constants to the right. And that would be negative 9, and then I gotta divide. So x equals negative 3. Okay, let's see if those work. So if x is 11, let's try that one first. If x is 11, then this would be 22 minus 1 would be 21. 21 minus 8 is 13. So the left side is 13. And then x was 11 plus 2 is also 13. So 11 works. That is one answer. And the other answer was negative 3. Let's see if negative 3 works. Okay. This is negative 3. Then 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Minus 1 would be negative 7. Oh, the absolute value of negative 7 is positive 7. 7 minus 8 is negative 1. So the left side is negative 1. And then fill in a negative 3 right here. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So that one also works. Okay, we're on to the last problem. So pause the video, try this one, and then start the video up again to see if you're right. Okay, so we're going to start by dividing 4 to both sides. Absolute value of x minus 6 equals 2x. Then we're going to separate it. X minus 6 equals 2x. X minus 6 equals negative 2x. I have x's on both sides, so we need to get those together. So since there's no constants over here, I'll leave the constants on the left and move the variables to the right. So I'm going to subtract x to both sides. So negative 6 equals x. Same steps over here. Negative 6 equals negative 3x. So then on this one, I'll need to divide by negative 3. Get x equals 2. Let's check those answers. Let's check negative 6. So negative 6 minus 6 would be negative 12, but then you take the absolute value, making it a positive 12. 4 times positive 12 would be 48. And then over here, times negative 6 would be negative 48. So I have a positive 48 equaling negative 48. That is not true. So we have another extraneous solution. Okay, our other one is if x equals 2. Let's see if that works. Okay, so 2 minus 6 would be -4. Then the absolute value makes it a +4. Times that by the 4 in the front is 16. And then 8 times 2 is 16. So yes, x equals 2 does work. So that's it for your notes. Those are the different scenarios that you might see. Tomorrow you're going to have a Delta Math assignment, and it's going to be on this, absolute value equations.